Manchester United dominated the early years of the Premier League. They won the title 20 times between 1992 and 2012. They haven't won a league title since then, the end of Alex Ferguson's reign at the club. Since then, the likes of David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Gunnar Solskjaer and Erik ten Haag have come. Most of them have gone and they haven't come really close to winning a title since. Over the 5 years of this rebuild, we're looking to return the glory years to Manchester United. We've opted to do the rebuild in real world mode. So obviously there are a lot of transfers. A lot of transfers are in and a lot of transfers out. What it does mean, because we're starting with real world, is that we only have 6 million to spend, although we do have quite a bit of room in the wage budget. So if we are going to look to sign anyone, we're probably going to need to move some more people on in order to free up some transfer money and also some room in the wage budget. We moved on Harry Maguire. We managed to get 18.5 million on deadline day from Tottenham for him. Looking at the squad, at the start of the season there was some gaps in the squad. So we did bring in a couple of players on top of the players that were already arranged. The first one we brought in was Youssouf Fofana from Monaco to add a bit of depth to the midfield. And then, having sold Harry Maguire, we brought in Nikola Milenkovic on a lot less wage, just to add some competition at the back as well. Tactic wise, we're going with a 4-3-3, quite an attacking tactic, which I think probably suits the players that we've got. The only two players that we are locking into the team are Rashford on the left and Garnacho on the right, largely because, having done the beat save with Manchester United, I know how good Garnacho was right from the very start of that save, and not having him locked in is a risk that the assistant manager is going to pick Anthony or Jadon Sancho, which really I don't want. And Rashford's locked into the left largely because I think there's probably going to be a temptation for them to play him through the middle, just with only having Anthony Martial and then Rasmus Højlund to come in. The aim for the first season is to be competitive in the Champions League, qualify for the Champions League from the league, reach the latter stages of the FA Cup, by which they want to reach the quarter-final, and be competitive in the League Cup, which they're not that bothered about. And the season started well. Opening day of the season, 2-0 victory over Chelsea, followed up by a 10-0 victory over Luton with an Anthony Martial hat-trick, at which point we were 8-0 up at half-time, and it was 10-0 after 55 minutes, and we kind of declared there. And then we followed that up with a 6-0 win at home against West Ham. All in all, things have started pretty well for season one. Let's simulate the rest of the season and see how we get on. I think from a league point of view, we would class season one as a success. Obviously, we won the title. We won it by 11 points. We only lost 2 games all season. A 3-1 defeat away at Tottenham and a 3-1 defeat at home to Arsenal. Bruno Fernandes, top goal scorer in the league with 24 goals, 7.54 average rating, and then Garnacho repaying the faith of having put him in the locking him into the team with 21 assists in the Premier League. I mean, obviously Erling Haaland was top goal scorer, but then we followed that up with Bruno Fernandes with 24 goals and Anthony Martial, of all people, with 23 goals. And then in terms of the assists, Garnacho with 21, Fernandes with 19. Just an outstanding season. And then obviously, not just outstanding going forward, we've kept 21 clean sheets as well out of 38 games. That's 7 more than the next best team there. In terms of the Champions League, obviously disappointing to be knocked out by Manchester City, going out 4-2 on aggregate in the quarter-final. Martial with 10 goals, highest average rating for the club as well. Beginning to suspect that Rasmus Højlund didn't play very much. We were knocked out in the 4th round of the FA Cup by Man City, losing 2-1. and we were knocked out in the fourth round of the Carabao Cup by Liverpool, losing 1-0. So we've not been hammered in any of those games. Looking at the league form, obviously we got off to that cracking start, lots of clean sheets early on. We lost that game in October against Arsenal at home 3-1, but bounced back with a 7-3 win away at Wolves. We've scored a hell of a lot of goals this season. And then the only other game we lost was the beginning of March. But just steamrolled most teams this season. A lot of 5-0 wins in amongst all of that. And as far as the squad's concerned, Bruno Fernandes with 34 goals, 27 assists, so 61 goal involvement in 48 games. Anthony Martial started 48 games and got 33 goals. So where's Rasmus Højlund? He started 4 games, came on as a sub in 8 games, 3 goals and 1 assist. That is not what I was expecting. And Rashford, 24 goals, 15 assists. Garnacho, 22 goals, 26 assists. I mean, even Mason Mount, 19 goals and 17 assists. All in all, you have to say that's a successful first season, winning the league. Now, can we go back to back in the league? Can we improve on our performance in the Champions League and in the cup competitions? Time for season 2. Going into season 2, we had over 50 million in the transfer budget and 417,000 in the wage budget available. Going into season 2, we were struggling a bit in terms of who we were going to put up front. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund didn't play much last season. Anthony Martial scored over 30 goals and was out of contract. So we gave him a new 2-year deal, but we were still looking to bring someone in. Before we did bring anyone in, though, we did boost the transfer kitty by selling Raphael Varane at 31. The time was right to move him on. He was in the last year of his contract as well, so to get 60 million for him, I thought was a good bit of business. And then we went and spent 86 million on Victor Osimhen up front, and then because we'd moved Varane on, we then went and signed Arthur Thiat from Rennes. And then at that point I thought, transfer business done, let's crack on with the season. However, on deadline day, it turned out that the players were having a mini revolt led by Marcus Rashford because they decided we didn't have enough strength in depth in the goalkeeping position. So we spent 3.4 million and signed Labrovic from Rijeka purely just as a backup goalkeeper. He's actually on the squad comparison on a similar level to Onana, but I doubt he'll play much, if anything. And going into the second season, we're not changing the tactic. We've stuck with the same tactic. We've no longer feel the need to lock in Rashford on the left because I don't think they would start him through the middle with Osimhen at the club. And Garnacho was so good last season that I think he's guaranteed to be playing off the right. He's fit. And we've opted to lock in the new signing at centre half. Because what we noticed in the early league games was that Victor Lindelof was the player that the assistant manager was selecting to play in that role. And the second season did not get off to the best start. We started by losing the Community Shield 2-1 to Chelsea, and Bruno Fernandes managed to get himself sent off in that game. We then opened the league campaign away at Goodison Park and lost 1-0. But we bounced back with successive 3-0 victories at home against Leeds and against West Ham, and then followed up that by beating Luton 5-1 away from home. So it's time to simulate and find out what happened in the rest of season 2. Season 2 turned out to be a decent follow-up to season 1. Yeah, we didn't win the title. We still got 85 points. We were 3 points off Man City. And when you look at the league positions we had a bad middle of the season where we dropped down to 5th and 4th. But then from the second half of the season onwards, we've been almost in that second position the whole time. Victor Osimhen's obviously come in and been a big success with 31 goals in the league. The Champions League, we made it to the final. In terms of player statistics, I mean, Luke Shaw with the most assists with 18. Victor Osimhen got 31 and we're still 10 goals behind the leading goal scorer of Erling Haaland. Obviously, he's fired Man City to that title. And then Champions League runner-up, hammered 3-0 in the final by Real Madrid. And we were hammered 3-0 in the final by Real Madrid. And really, I mean, it was a fairly even game. We even had more chances and higher XG, but they just obviously turned on the quality in the second half. FA Cup, we were knocked out by Arsenal in the 5th round, and the Carabao Cup, we made it to the semi-final where we were beaten 4-3 on aggregate by Man City. As far as the players have done, Victor Osimhen, 43 goals, 13 assists in 62 games. Bruno Fernandes, 31 goals, 14 assists. Garnacho with 13 goals and 14 assists. Rashford, 21 goals, 19 assists. We have some of the players individually have dropped off a touch, but both fullbacks have obviously been bombing forward and getting assists. Aaron Wan-Bissaka with 15 assists, Luke Shaw with 20 assists in all competitions. We do have a bit of a concern in that Bruno Fernandes last season wanted to leave because of the interest being shown in him. He's now wanted by a club in Saudi Arabia. He's 30 with 2 years left on his contract. Is this the right time to cash in for a big fee to enable us to retool the squad to challenge in season 3? As we stand at the minute, we've got 85 million to spend transfer budget wise. We've got 337,000 wage budget available. We have looked to sign a defensive midfielder, although I don't think that one's going to be accepted. So that's an area we probably need to improve on, just because Casemiro's getting on a bit. So an offer did come in for Bruno Fernandes. It wasn't great. It was 60 million up front, rising to 100 million with optionals that'll take it to 139 million. So we decided to negotiate that and bump up the upfront price, keeping everything else the same, expecting them, as would usually happen, for them to turn around and say, no, that's too much. However, obviously we were dealing with a Saudi Arabian club here who got money to burn, and so Bruno Fernandes has left the club to join Al Ahly. The deal ended up being 149 million maximum, minimum cost. It was 100 million up front, 49 million in instalments, which can go up to 172 million based on appearances and things like that, which then, added to the money we already had in the transfer budget, meant that we could go pretty big in the transfer window. The first player we signed was Alan Varela for 50 million. He can play, the intention in signing him was to play in the defensive midfield role. Then, having had a slightly weaker season in defence in the second season, we've decided to go for Guzman Diamande from Sporting. Just a big guy, good in the air, powerful, and pretty quick as well, just to try and secure us at the back. Once we moved on Bruno Fernandes, we went and picked up Fede Valverde from Real Madrid. Pretty high transfer fee and a pretty high wage, but hopefully he can provide some added steel in that midfield. And then, having sold Tyrell Malacia to Brighton, we were a bit short defensively on the left-hand side. We had Luke Shaw as the only real out-and-out left-back. Obviously, Lisandro Martinez could cover there, but we decided to go into the transfer market on deadline day, and we picked up Valentin Barco from Boca Juniors. Quite surprised to see he was still there going into the third season, but just to add a bit of depth to the defence there. We opted to keep the same tactic that we'd had in season 1 and season 2, although we tweaked it a bit with the addition of Varela, who we've locked into that defensive midfield role. We've changed that from being a defensive midfielder to being a halfback on defend, which he can do pretty well. And other than that, we're going to leave it up to the assistant manager to pick the team. Season-wise, we've started better than we started last season. We started with a 5-1 victory at home against Fulham. Victor Osimhen getting off the mark with a couple of goals in that one. We then followed that up with a 2-0 victory away at Man City. And then And I followed that up with another 5-1 home victory, this time over Sheffield United, with Victor Osimhen getting a hat-trick. And in his opening 3 games, he's picked up 6 goals for the club already starting to pay back some of that transfer fee. So let's simulate season 3 and see if we can regain the title. So the end of season 3 has seen the title return to Old Trafford. We've won the title by 6 points from Arsenal. We've won 30 games in the season. Surprisingly, Man City, having won the title last season, have dropped to 8 and have only qualified for the Europa Conference League. Probably on the back of a season where Erling Haaland scored 16 goals less than he did the season before. But Victor Osimhen with 27 goals. Marcus Rashford, top the average rating, top of the Man of the Match awards. We've gone back towards being a bit more secure defensively with 17 clean sheets. We don't have anyone in the top of the assists though. They've obviously shared those around amongst themselves. Champions League, we were knocked out in the semi-final by Inter Milan. The first leg was a 4-4 draw, and then we lost the second leg 3-0. The FA Cup, we made it to the final before losing 4-2 after extra time against Liverpool. And what is worse about that is we were 2-0 up. They got to equalise it in the 92nd minute to take it to extra time. We had a player sent off before that, and they then scored 2 goals in extra time to win the FA Cup. And the Carabao Cup, we were dumped out 3-1 in the first round we entered against Newcastle. So squad-wise, looking at it, Marcus Rashford with 34 goals and 18 assists. Osimhen with 34 goals. Mason Mount has thrived in this formation, it seems. 21 goals and 13 assists this season. Garnacho, 12 goals and 17 assists. Valverde, 10 goals and 12 assists in his first season. And we have seen a drop-off in the assists from the fullbacks. Wan-Bissaka with 3, Gaal with 7, Shaw with 9, compared to what they had last season. Going into season 4, we are losing a few players. Casemiro at 34 has signed on a free transfer for Al Ittihad. Amad Diallo is going to Al Rayed. We do have 64 million to spend before we do any other business in terms of any other sales, and we do have 355,000 available in the wage budget as well. So plenty of room to just add a couple of players to really try and drive up quality and try and make sure that we can retain the title. When we began looking at the squad going into season 4, there wasn't any real areas where we needed to strengthen. So we opted to go and spend money on Dusan Vlahovic just to give us that extra bit of quality up front, someone to compete with Osimhen for a place up front, and just to try and guarantee some more goals. We eventually managed to get rid of Anthony. We've been trying since the first season. He's been wanting to go since the first season, but this was the first point that anyone actually even made an offer for him. So he went to Norwich for 13.5 million. Luke Shaw, at the age of 31, decided that it was time for a change for him. So once PSG came in for him, he made it very clear that he wanted to leave. He had a year left on his contract and was suggesting that he wasn't going to sign a new contract. So we moved him on. And after moving him on, we were looking for a replacement left back. Because although we'd signed Barco the previous season, I don't think he was ready to. Didn't think he was of the quality to start for the team. So we went to Bayer Leverkusen and we signed Piero Hincapié, who can also cover in the centre of defence, but just a really solid player. Wasn't going to let us down on the left hand side. And then going into this 4th season, we kept the formation the same, which could be seen as a bit of a mistake, because what you're guaranteeing is that only one of Osimhen or Vlahovic is going to start. Hopefully we'll find that they rotate them, but we might end up coming back at the end of season 4 and finding that we've got one really annoyed centre forward. As the season started, having lost the FA Cup final at Wembley to Liverpool, we then lost the Community Shield. But league wise, things were much better. We didn't have if you look at the fixtures, if you take the Everton game out, we didn't have a particularly appealing start to the season. We started away at Stamford Bridge and won 5-1. with a Marcus Rashford hat-trick. We then went to Man City at home, and new boy Piero Hincapié stepped up and grabbed the winner as the only goal of the game. We then followed that up with a roller coaster of a game against Everton. We were 2-0 up, 3-1 up, then it was 3-3, and then Victor Osimhen popped up in the last 10 minutes with the winner. And then we entertained Newcastle at Old Trafford and hammered them and won 6-1. So again, another good start to the season. Hopefully we can continue on in that vein and really produce as far as the league season's concerned, and hopefully we can go better than we did last season in the Champions League and make it back to the final of that as well. So let's simulate the rest of season 4 and see what happened. And season 4, again, another successful league season. We've come away with champions. That's 3 titles in 4 seasons, winning the title by 12 points from Man City. Marcus Rashford, outstanding, highest average rating in the league, our top goal scorer with 22 goals. Andre Onana, 15 clean sheets, so we're back to being secure at the back compared to everyone else. We lost 4 games in the season. We lost all of them away. We lost away to West Ham, away to Man City, away to Liverpool, and away to Spurs. Champions League, we reached the same stage as last season. It was a bit of a closer affair this time around, although we did win the first leg 3-1 and then get dumped out 5-4 on aggregate by Real Madrid. FA Cup was disappointing and we ended up getting knocked out on penalties by Fulham in the 5th round. And then we managed to pick up the Carabao Cup, beating Norwich 4-1. 2 goals from Rashford, 2 goals from Vlahovic, and another trophy added to the cabinet. As far as the squad's concerned, the players are concerned, Marcus Rashford 39 goals and 16 assists in 52 games. Osimhen with 36 goals. Mount with 21 goals and 18 assists. Garnacho with 11 goals and 24 assists. Valverde with 10 goals and 10 assists. And Vlahovic with 10 goals and 1 assist. But he only played 16 games. And this is what I said at the start of the season. I think going into season 4, we're going to need to change the formation and play Osimhen and Vlahovic together, see what we can achieve and see if we can keep everyone happy that way. Going into season 5, they've given us 77 million to spend. We've got some room in the wage budget as well. I don't know that we need anything major in terms of incomings. I think the main thing is going to be that change in formation to make sure that we can get the best out of those attacking players that we do have. Season 5, so no major transfers at all. We lost Altai by India on a free transfer. A couple of the younger players moved away from the club. The only incoming transfer, we signed Ansu Fati from Barcelona just to give us cover right, left and through the middle. Tactically, we kept things mostly the same, but what we did do away with is the defensive midfielder, and we've basically gone 4-2-4. We've gone with 2 through the middle front just so that we can get Osimhen and Vlahovic on the pitch at the same time, hopefully along with Garnacho and Rashford. And I think undoubtedly we're going to concede more goals this season, but it's going to be very much a you score 4, we'll score 5 kind of situation. And that's been borne out by the start of the season so far. We started with Chelsea in the Community Shield at Wembley. Now, Chelsea actually took the lead twice in this game. They went 1-0 up and 2-1 up, but we ran out 7-2 winners on the back of 4 goals from Victor Osimhen. The opening day of the league season didn't go quite to plan. A 3-3 draw away against West Ham with a Garnacho hat-trick, but we followed that up with an 8-1 victory at home against Burnley, and then a 4-0 victory at home against Leeds, a 6-3 victory away against Leicester, and a 3-1 victory away against Wigan as well. So things are going well, we're flying, we're scoring goals. The question is, can that continue as the season goes on? But let's find out as we simulate the 5th and final season of this rebuild. And we were were able to continue that form. Despite the fact that we conceded 61 goals, we ended up with a goal difference of plus 82 because we scored 143 goals on our way to 90 points, winning the league title by 8 points from Arsenal. Certainly putting Vlahovic and Osimhen through the middle seems to have worked, with Vlahovic scoring 23 goals in the league, Osimhen scoring 22. And then look at the assists. I mean, you've got Garnacho with 19 assists, Rashford with 17 assists, Valverde with 15 assists. That's just 51 assists between the three of those. We actually had 5 of the top 10 goal scorers in the league. Vlahovic with 23, Osimhen with 22, Garnacho with 19, Rashford with 19, and Mason Mount with 17. In the other competitions, the FA Cup, we got hammered in the third round by Newcastle 4-0. The Carabao Cup, we got beaten 1-0 by Chelsea in the quarter-final. And the Champions League, we made it all the way to the final to get beaten 1-0 by Arsenal, and we missed a penalty. Just a slightly bitter end to the season. In terms of the players in this final season, Osimhen with 36 goals in all competitions, Vlahovic with 31, Rashford with 30, Garnacho with 26. Valverde got 23 goals in all competitions, Mason Mount 20, Ansu Fati 17, and assist-wise, Garnacho with 25, Rashford with 23, Valverde with 20, Mount with 17, even Vlahovic popped up with 15 assists. In fact, that's 9 players in double digits for assists for the season. Just a really outstanding final season. The whole season was just full of goals. I mean, there's 6 threes, 7-5, 8-0, 6-0, 6-0. I mean, we beat Liverpool 7-2 in the semi-final of the Champions League in the first leg. Just a very entertaining season. And what that means for the rebuild is we've won the title 4 times out of the 5 seasons. We've added a Carabao Cup as well as a Community Shield as well. Slightly disappointed with what we've done in the Carabao Cup and the League Cup. And slightly disappointed with what we've done in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup as a whole over the rebuild. And we made it to 2 Champions League finals, 2 Champions League semi-finals, but not managed to. We've made it to 2 Champions League finals, 2 further Champions League semi-finals, but we've not managed to go one step further and actually win the Champions League, which is a disappointment with the squad, the talent we've got, and the goals we've scored. But overall, I would say job done in returning the glory days to Manchester United.